All right. So say exactly what you said a moment ago about your experience.
Yeah, so this one's been unique in the feeling, the actual physical feeling of this lightness in my head. It's almost as if I did a splice or a cut in like a video.
Hmm.
Like just this part of my face feels super light. Is almost as if it
Yep.
was like removed, and my entire head feels lighter. I feel
Hmm.
a lot more clarity, a lot less tension that I didn't. The craziest thing is because it probably been there so long, it was just normal.
Hmm.
But it's just a weird openness, like
Yeah.
hard to explain. Like literally a chunk of my face and skull and everything has been like removed, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I have a theory on that. So first, let me talk about trauma specifically, and then I'll talk about trauma as how it applies to this. So trauma is an evolutionary response when we feel like our survival is threatened. And if the process gets interrupted, that's what causes a traumatic imprint. And basically, what happens is it creates a snapshot of whatever circumstances happened at that exact moment. So it can prevent you from re-experiencing them, right? So if you put your hand on a hot burner, you'll remember that that burner is hot. You won't do it again, right? So it creates a trauma response. Now, in this specific case, right, you had a traumatic imprint around shock or fear or shame, the shame of being found out, right? And what happens when we see someone, we have 41 million mirror neurons, which is that when we see someone, we imitate what we see, right? And that's why when we smile, someone else smiles, right? When they smile, we smile, right? It's the same thing,
Mhm.
right? But that got combined with a traumatic imprint. So that fear, right, imprinted on your face, but on an energetic level, right?
Mhm.
So basically what happened is that you were wearing the emotion of this thing with these mirror neurons because that was like the imprint. If you've ever seen the like the young soldier, he has like one picture and he goes to war, then like he looks like he's like 1,000 years older and he's
Yeah.
like wearing all of
Yes.
this
Yes.
trauma on his face,
Yeah.
right? It's exactly the same thing. So when I release that trauma, all of those muscles, all of those neurons relax. So
Yeah.
that's why you feel lighter in your head. And then
Mm.
that's why if your face feels completely new, like you removed the trauma from your face because that's exactly what happened, right? You remove that imprint of like your reaction to the external event.
Mm. That's crazy, man. So like right after the call today, Marco hits me up and he's just like, dude, you look different. Like, what? Yeah. He's like, you look good. I'm like, what? I feel super stressed. Well, I mean, not super stressed, but got a lot going on. And I definitely am not feeling like I'm looking my best right now. Like, I wasn't quite sure what he meant. Like, just like my aura, my presence, my skin, my beard, what,
Yeah.
He was like, no, no, no. Yeah, I definitely noticed like something in your vibe.
Yeah. It reminds me of the story of Dorian Gray, how every time he commits a crime, his face stays the same and he stays beautiful, but then he has like the painting of him, and everything that he does gets worn on the painting, right? So he kills someone, and then the painting looks like bloody or angry or whatever, and it just gets worse and worse and worse over time. So
Mhm.
that's exactly how we are, right? Except we wear it on our faces, right? So the more messed up you are, the more traumatized you are, the more angry you look, the more hateful, rage, fear, whatever, it's all worn on your face. And then that's kind of what people pick up on, right? And then so when you release all of that, then you return to that kind of like that pristine original image where there is no trauma, there is no pain, whatever. And people are like, holy cow, I've never seen that before because like everyone wears pain,
I think,
right?
yeah, yeah, that's a great explanation. It was almost as if Ooh, yeah, that was, now it just came to me. Well, my understanding of what you just described is almost as if it was like a spiritual mask that over time, due to the same behaviors and the same reactions and the same results, almost like solidified into this, like a mask.
Yeah.
And by becoming aware, consciously aware, and consciously seeking to, counteract the wounds that caused you to wear that mask, when it dissipates, literally that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
You're free of this. What was once unconscious is now conscious and now removed.
Right.
But this one specifically has been like my face
Yeah.
area. Huh. That's
Yeah.
nuts. Wow.
I mean, there may be some spiritual component to it as well. I mean, I don't know what that would be. I mean, I believe in the spiritual world, but everything I do is quite scientific in my understanding of the mind and the brain and like
Yeah.
electrical signals and all that stuff. So I can explain it scientifically. Maybe there is a spiritual component as well. But yeah, it's a huge change, like a massive change. And it really is like kind of taking off that mask, and it's interesting because it's different than say like the personality disorder people. It's different than like the narcissist, right? So they have a mask and they know the mask is there and they can intentionally remove it to trick you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas in this case what's happened is it's there and you didn't know it was there. There was no way you could get rid of it even if you did know it was there, and now it's completely gone. It's not something that you take off and put on. It's erased,
Yeah.
right? And so it's actual healing as opposed to a way to manipulate others.
Right, right, right. And so just to honestly just bring transparency to the situation, it was a situation where what I found is the more we unraveled the events in my life and the things that were affecting me, I'm actually going to try not to say trauma as much. Number one, I know people are all freaking triggered about it. And it's like this whole dualism and superiority and inferiority and the criticism and, oh God, that would never be me and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just trying to be a little bit more diverse with my words. But um, that these events that imprint on us, um, for me, there was a bunch around money, and it took lots of other healings to finally see it for that. I was actually shocked. Like, dude, how did I not freaking see that? Duh. Like, yeah, that was major. That was a constant feeling of like dread and frustration and confusion and anger and like just the constant violation of your gut feelings because you're right and you're being manipulated and someone's withholding their energy and someone is purposely trying to manipulate you. And even though you're a little kid, it's like something just doesn't feel right here. And I am not happy that you think that somehow I don't understand or see what's going on when I can go interact in the same way with 20 other people and this would not happen. I watch you day in and day out go through the same situation with complete strangers and not act like this.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But then it gets you like constantly ruminating if you're right, you're wrong, you're misreading, you're overreacting, blah, blah, blah. And then the accusations start in as well, which confuses you even more, which in hindsight is intentional to keep you from discovering the truth that indeed you are being traumatized and controlled from seeing the truth. that you feel in your gut nonstop. So for me, I was manipulated a lot around money. And it was like, I knew it. It felt plain as day. And so over time, because money was so disrespected in that way, it became a place for me to become disrespectful for money as well as a kid, to the point where I think I became resentful of my parents around money and how much I felt like they controlled me and shamed me and did all the things that I came to a point where I justified when, say, my mom would say, go and grab $20 out of my purse, that I would grab a 20 and a 5, because there'd be hundreds of dollars in there in 20s, 5s, and 1s, sometimes thousands, dude, and it was haphazardly everywhere. And so it was like, you know, it was like a shameful justification, but still it's one of those things you get away with it once, and then that's how shit happens. That's why integrity is so important, keeping
Yeah.
yourself from ever even doing the thing one time. But
Mhm.
ultimately I ended up getting, back then I probably respected my stepdad more than any other person on earth. And he caught me. In hindsight, I think they kind of like set me up, like they had noticed that, more money was gone or something. And so my mom was like, yeah, can you go get me $50 or something? And even that is so manipulative, dude. Why are you sending a fucking 9-year-old to go get $55 cash out of your wallet? And keep 20 and go spend it on whatever you want, over time. And then having no accountability. No, like, what'd you buy? What do you have left? You know what I'm saying? So the message was, do what you want. I do what I want. I do what I want. So you should too. And that was the feeling. So bottom line was, it brought me to a place of justifying taking extra, stealing. And my stepdad caught me, and I was absolutely, dude, that's what it is. That's mortification right there. I was mortified because I worked so hard to want him to trust me. And I had already felt bad that I was doing it. I knew it was wrong. It was a little bit of an addiction, and it was a little bit of a little, in hindsight now, is a bit of a jab.
Mhm.
I didn't know that. So that moment is frozen in time. Even now, I can see myself in the front seat of the car, um, like in my mom's purse, in the wallet, and then just like coming out of the car, and my stepdad being like right there. And I just visibly had more than what they were asking for. And I was just like, fuck, like, oh my God, how will I ever regain his trust again? And it was like, it all comes down, like, you knew at some point. That's the thing, man. We know when we're doing bad, it's like we know we're going down a bad path. And if we don't stop, we're going to get caught. And how is that going to feel? And how's that going to affect us? So now that I've talked it out like that, that's exactly what happened, man.
Mhm.
It was like I felt like almost turned to stone
Yeah.
with, like, for me, there's toxic shame and there's shame. And that was a good shame for me. I needed that shame, you know,
Yeah.
but it was so hard for me to um, look at my stepdad, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And
and
it's really interesting like for some people listening, when I talk about traumas, of course you think like car accidents or you got shot or whatever, or
Right.
raped or whatever. But it's like to some people that would be a really small thing, right? You just got caught stealing like $5, right? But like that imprinted on you so powerfully as a trauma,
Mhm.
and it affected your entire life
Right.
basically up until we fixed it the other day, right? Like that's how powerful it is. Um, and so when we resolve a trauma, it's not like you lose the lesson, right? You still know that stealing is bad, but you're just not punished by it anymore, right? You're not your subconscious isn't like
It was
like
also,
hurting you as a result.
in hindsight, though, it was also a massive highlight of just the toxicity around it all,
Yeah,
man. I remember actually that reinforced my resentment, anger, frustration, confusion around money. Because I remember thinking, takes two to tango too.
yeah,
You know, I am wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. But if you couldn't have given me a more perfect environment to fall into this. And now it feels like you're using it to justify like some type of grandiose superior position when there was no superior grandiose position before, teaching me how to properly manage money, telling me what I'm getting paid, telling me when I'm going to be paid, paying me on time. You know what I mean? Not making me feel ashamed about money. And here I am. That time was, I think I was like 16. And it was getting a lot worse. The older I got, the worse it got. Because the older I got, the more money I needed. And I'm driving at that time. And it's like, I was so sick and tired of like asking for things and never getting a direct answer. There's no such thing as a direct answer in my family, ever. You were always either they controlled it and said, yep, or it was a fucking black hole of confusion in the ether, man. Just leaving you like, what does that mean? You know, like, okay, I guess I can't go do the thing I wanted to do now, you know. Um,
yeah,
so I think it was almost like a double mortification, like this mortification and setting that emotion and place in the moment from a shame side. But then there was like a toxic shame element too of the anger of like, oh, you're so holier than thou, yet
yeah,
what you're doing is not any better to your own kids, man. I didn't see it
right,
that way. I just felt it. Like, oh,
yeah,
really? Okay, this is just all about, you know, like there's nothing you're doing at all that's wrong, you know, or there's no situation you can put a unaccountable child in that they might bend the rules, break the rules, do, something unexpected or not up to par, you know?
yeah, yeah. So that one traumatic incident, just from getting caught stealing a few extra dollars.
Well, that time it was double. See, that was the other thing is that
Okay,
that's why I mean that as time went on, there's a little more and a little
mhm,
more
I
as I
gotcha,
got older. And so that time it was like, get me a 20, and I literally just had like 40.
gotcha. Okay,
And that was
okay,
probably also why they noticed it, because I had started regularly basically taking double of what was being asked. One for you, one for me.
right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right. But I mean, like objectively, it's a small amount. It's not like, hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, but that one small incident and all of the emotions, all the traumatic imprint, like how did that show up as problems later on in your life?
That's a good question. I think it showed up with me struggling with the self-worth around gaining trust initially, even when I know I'm a completely trustworthy, integrity focused person today, for very good reason. That imprinting was still creating fear around that initial breakthrough, those initial clients to gain that initial momentum. Because, man, that's why I keep telling you, dude, I'm the momentum guy. I'm the flow guy. Like when I am when I have even a slight amount of momentum, one payment, and I am just like, validation, motivation, man. I think I'm so eager to help and change perspectives and do the thing to the best of my ability that getting over needing that initial sign off, if you will, of someone going, damn, dude, that's a great idea, or I like that, like, let's talk, and then actually buying, and it's good night nurse from there, typically for me.
Yeah.
So that's one of the number one things I'm learning now is like, I'm definitely not feeling that resistance right now.
So it's easier to just start something without, any momentum, no validation needed. You just jump right in and go.
I think so. I think there's still a little bit there.
Yeah, there might be. It's usually not just one situation. It's usually multiple, but at least it's better than it was before.
My cheeks and ears, they're still left. Just took the cross section of my face. My head are still there, dude.
We'll figure it out.
I'm like a spiritual Spartan mask now.
Yeah. It's one of those things, in that specific case, when you feel like a physical sensation, it's very often that when you were traumatized, there was a physical sensation. So like you had the car screeching to a halt and you felt the seatbelt, that was an example, right? In this case, if you're feeling it on your ears, then maybe it was in the winter time and either your ears were cold or you're wearing earmuffs or a hat or something over your ears at the same time that something was happening. So if we go down that rabbit trail, we might actually figure out what the cause of it was. So
I was wearing a hoodie, man. Wearing a hoodie.
I know how the mind works.
It was like early winter. Yeah.
So then we might need to rerun that to account for that. And then
it was literally one of these, like
yeah.
Oh God. Whoa. I so want to deny that this is even reality right now.
Right.
And the way it was dealt with too is like extreme shame too.
Yeah.
Like just kind of not a lot of talk that I remember anyways, but just mostly shame.
Yeah.
Like shame fucking sandwich constantly. That's been I grew up with so much shame, man, that like I make it a point to always try to explain the 360 of the whole thing with my kids when they mess up,
Yeah.
Try to make sure they're not like internalizing like toxic shame.
Right.
That they're like integrating and processing the right things and not like you know, creating dark matter, like dark trauma that's gonna affect their perception and behaviors and feedback loops and all that good stuff.
Right. Yeah, prevention is a good first step, and then if that fails, then that's why we can fix it. So,
Well, all right,
all
buddy.
right.
There wasn't
Well,
as
did that shed some insight on the whole feeling like your face got removed?
yeah, I never really thought about it being like my face, but yeah, it's like it's a little bit, it's weird. It's like it's not really my eyes, it's like
Hmm.
this part.
Yeah.
A little bit in my forehead, probably like this. Almost
Hmm.
my eyes.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like it feels hollow.
Interesting.
It's so weird.
Well,